The 1960s brought swinging London to Britain, the British invasion to America, and the music of the Kinks to the world.
There are very few bands in rock and roll history that announced themselves with such devastating force.
By 1963, the Kinks would challenge the Beatles with hit songs, inventive music, and brilliant lyrics.
I remember their first 3 singles just completely killed me.
They outdo both what the Beatles and the Stones are best at.
Success brought the foursome a wild rock and roll lifestyle, but it also brought trouble, damaging their trust in one another and fueling creative issues they would never overcome.
We bought the illusion. You know what I mean? We thought all these guys were friends.
Nothing to lose.
Lead you to where you are today.
I believe in storytelling.
It's gonna make you a star.
I'm still trying to figure that out.
We really got to know one another.
In August of 1964, the Kinks, made up of brothers Ray and Dave Davies, Mick Avory and Peter Quaife, released a song that would become part of rock and roll history.
Girl, you really got me going. You got me so I know what I'm doing.
You Really Got Me is one of the most influential songs ever in rock and roll.
It's about a kid who's sexually attracted to a girl and they make out.
It isn't about I want to hold your hand, you know, it's about sex. And it sounds like sex, and it's sinister.
The song, with its raw primal beat, hit '1 on the UK charts within a month.
It's hard to overstate the importance of that song to every significant rock movement that followed.
It was just unbelievable. It cut through everything, and even the Beatles it cut through.
You can hear it in Van Halen, you can hear it in punk rock, you can hear it in, I don't know, some kid putting out an indie record today.
You Really Got Me steered popular music in a new direction, and it was all powered by the Davis brothers and a small 8-watt amp purchased in a second-hand shop.
In actuality, it was this little pig-nose amplifier that I think all of us used to kick every now and then as we went by, just to make it sound even more raunchy than it did.
What Dave did, he took this little green amp, around about this big. It was the one that we used to rehearse with.
And I had messed around trying to get a decent sound out my amp. I couldn't. You got like a bright sound or a bassy sound, and that was it. So I decided to experiment.
Ray said that Dave stuck a knitting needle through the speaker to make it distort, and Dave says that what he did was he took a razor blade and sliced the speaker to make it distort.
And I plugged it in, and it made that rough noise. Like, oh, it's fantastic.
Dave's guitar was snarling, he was playing these bar chords, and Ray's vocal was snarling. And it was just like, wow, I didn't know you could have that emotion on a record.
It was a completely new sound, which was the toughest guitar sound, you know, that we had ever heard.
This was a new sound from a new band that had formed just months before in the town of Muswell Hill, London.
Well, the Kinks began at the William Grimshaw Secondary Modern School in Muswell Hill. We were at a music lessons. One day one of our teachers asked us if any of us could play any instrument. He said, because it would be nice if you could play at the school dance.
And so it's Ray, Pete, myself that really started the band.
We got together and we found out that in actual fact it worked. It really did work. And we got up on the stage on the night of the school dance and it went down great. We looked at each other and went, boy, maybe we're onto something here.
We were like 3 baby musketeers. Our love for music.
We really started rehearsing together. And that always went on at Ray and Dave's place. It's the famous front room.
The Davis home at 6 Denmark Terrace served as rehearsal and social hangout.
There used to be parties every weekend, and everybody would sing the songs that they liked.
And the more we played out, the better we got. And the more excited we got.
We had various dramas. Eventually, we came across Mick.
When I first joined the band, they were like a blues band, and they did a lot of blues numbers.
The newly formed band played under a number of different names.
It would be the Ray Davis Quartet if it was Ray that got the job. But, you know, so if I got the job, it was Peter Quaife Quartet. And so Ray found out about that, and then he said, no, I knew them before you did, and it's the Ray Davies Quartet.
I think they used to change the name quite a bit.
My earliest recollections are really playing gigs in Muswell Hill under a variety of names, the Ravens, which was my favourite name.
And then the band came across a name that would give them the commercial edge they needed.
I think someone suggested it in a pub, said to Mick, you know what you ought to be called, don't you? Bleeding Kinks.
They weren't called the Kinks for nothing. It was a big part of their image that they were kinky, the idea that anything goes.
The band's behavior reflected their outrageous new name.
Yeah, there's a famous story about the first real flare-up in the group. Dave says something that Mick takes exception to, and Mick picks a cymbal up and throws it at Dave's head. Now, a cymbal is a big, heavy thing. That's going to take your head off if you throw it, right?
Yeah, well, it was a hi-hat, and I put it upside down, and he went down, and curtains closed. End of the show, folks.
Fighting was definitely part of the band's DNA, especially for brothers Ray and Dave, who had very different personalities.
Because I was a serious, deep-thinking musician, and there was this crazed kid with sort of really big hair playing these amazing guitar licks, and I thought, wow.
One wasn't like the other anyway. Dave used to be the showman. Ray was more reserved, the clever one, the poet and the writer.
We're not like each other either. I'm not like everybody else, and I'm especially not like my brother, and vice versa. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic there.
And undoubtedly, that gave the group some of the fire that it had. If you look at footage of them playing You Really Got Me, Ray is quite laid back while he's singing, and over to his right is Dave Davies, raving it up like no one before or since.
Even if they were trying to outdo each other, it worked, It was a good combination.
The tension, of course, was important. I think when it got out of control, when it became damaging, that's when it went wrong.
The band's infighting, however, did not distract them from the success the Beatles were having in America.
We knew that we could open up America, but in order to do that, we had to be there.
In February of 1964, the Beatles performed on The Ed Sullivan Show. 74 million Americans tuned in to witness the start of the British invasion.
I've equated the Beatles on Ed Sullivan and the whole British invasion really to a spaceship landing in Central Park. I mean, it's that kind of impact.
That was the sound of the baby boom discovering itself.
And the Beatles come to America and become a phenomenon unlike anything before or after. They have 9,000 of the top 1,000 songs. It's not mathematically possible, but the Beatles rule the American charts and they rule the American teen consciousness, and there gets to be this hunger for anything remotely Beatles-like.
When we went home from Christmas vacation that year, the world was black and white. And when we came back in the beginning of January, the world was in color.
Everything was different after that,
Like other British bands, the Kinks wanted badly to get in on this exciting American market.
There were lots of record companies and lots of other bands, obviously, who looked at the Beatles and said, I want to do that too.
The Kinks were well positioned to join the invasion. The question was, could these four teenagers pull their act together for America?
America was like a fantasy land to us then. I thought if we could go over there and make it there, we've done it all.
Ever wish you had sonic hearing? Well, now you can with the
only on Bio.
In 1964, the Kinks recorded one of the most influential hits of all time, You Really Got Me. This song positioned the young band to follow the Beatles into the American market. How would the Kinks transport their unique sound created in the town of Muswell Hill to America?
If you look at the way that the group would rehearse in the 1960s, they would travel up to Ray's house in North London, would gather round his piano, and would sing along.
Raymond Douglas Davis was born on June 21, 1944, and on February 3, 1947, David Russell Gordon Davis came along, rounding out Anne and Frederick Davis's family of 10.
There was always music in the house. My sisters played piano and sang, and My dad played banjo, and there was music. And in those days, growing up in North London, we used to make our own entertainment.
Ray Davies, you know, he had 6 older sisters to take care of him. And then when he was 3 years old, Dave, through no fault of his own, was born into this family. And suddenly, you know, Paradise became this sibling rivalry thing.
From the beginning, it was apparent that the brothers were different. Ray was a quiet, poetic kid.
Inside, he's shy, quiet, retiring.
Ray had a sister, Renee, who doted on him. And he had nagged her as a boy to buy him a guitar. She bought him the guitar and she gave it to him, and the same evening she went out dancing and she collapsed on the dance floor and she died.
Ray's sister Renee had an undiagnosed hole in her heart.
So you got Ray in one hand, the excitement of getting this amazing present, and also the emotion of my sister dying.
The thing he associates with his fortune, his guitar, is also the thing that's synonymous with the death of his sister. So there must be some very mixed up feelings there.
While Ray was more of an introvert, Dave, being the baby of the family, was the polar opposite, an extroverted rebel.
My feelings of my childhood and growing up prior to the Kinks were very happy, but very sad, very gritty, but loving and emotional.
But Dave's wild style would eventually get him into trouble.
Dave Davies had been in a relationship with a young girl called Sue. His age, they were at school together, I believe.
I was totally swept off my feet. It took over my whole life.
Their passion was uncontrollable. One afternoon in a London park, they were caught in the act by truant officers. Dave was promptly expelled from school.
And she had become pregnant, and the two families had got together and conspired to keep them apart.
Sue's parents were telling her that I didn't want her anymore, and my parents were telling me that she didn't want me anymore. So imagine you carrying that around with you as you grow up. And I think it really messed me up a lot, emotionally a lot.
By the age of 15, Dave had dropped out of England's school system. He would write and sing about this event for the rest of his life.
Perhaps the reason for his kind of very manic partying in that era is partly because he doesn't want to have to think about this other thing.
Sometimes, to do what the Kinks did when we first started, you needed the anger, that rage to do it. You know, it was quite a motivating thing.
30 years would pass until Dave and Sue eventually reunited. Their reunion was a happy one, and it also gave Dave a chance to meet his daughter. Ray was also smitten by the love bug at a young age when he met 17-year-old Rasa Dispetris.
Ray gets married in the mid-1960s to Rasa Davies, and she can be heard singing on the Kinks records at the period. She was the first person that Ray would play his songs for.
Our managers didn't want Ray to get married and thought that if you got married and you're in a rock band, that the fans wouldn't come and see you, wouldn't buy your records.
Rasa would play an influential role in Ray's work, and to the discomfort of the band, her voice began to be heard in the studio too.
The worst thing was having that woman there giving you advice over the microphone into the studio. You know, oh, can't you play it more like this?
Ray struggled to find the right balance in his life as husband, father, and budding rock star.
You know, while his brother was out raving it up in Carnaby Street, Ray was at home with a new wife and babies.
I was 20 and married and girls falling at my feet, but that sort of thing. And so was Dave, but Dave had a more wilder lifestyle.
This balance was often disrupted by Ray and Dave's constant battling. At times, the brothers' very public disputes threatened the survival of the band.
Every rock and roll band is a recreation of the dysfunctional family. And in the case of the Kinks, they didn't even have to recreate the dysfunctional family. It was the original dysfunctional family.
It was obvious that Ray and Dave were trying to fight it out between each other. Who was going to be the top man in the band. You know.
When Ray and Dave decided to have a go at each other, I would call a 15 or 20-minute coffee break and let them go to it. You know, and the rest of us used to go have a cigarette and have a cup of coffee, and when they were done, we'd come back and start over again.
The band did put aside their differences long enough to begin recording demos. It was at this time that they also came across two young socialites, Robert Quaife and Grenville Collin, who would want to become their managers.
Quaife and Collins were the Kinks' management. You know, they were quite a strange, upper-class duo who had no real experience in this area, and yet had the chutzpah and the charm.
I thought it was the most exciting prospect. Because I was a young boy, you know, I was 16 years old, entering into a business that I'd always loved. I thought, oh, you know, they'll look after some nice people. You know, I was really quite naive. I think we all were.
This is the great 60s thing, these opportunities for people who previously would not have had the opportunity. The flip side of that is they often didn't know what they were doing.
Quaife and Collins only made the band's life even more confusing, getting the band another manager, Larry Page, and a tour promoter, Arthur Howe.
They were uniquely disadvantaged with their management because there were already so many of them.
Well, that's when it started to get very, very difficult, very hard. It was all due to the greedy little Robert and Grenville duo. They wanted us out there playing as much as we could, doing as much as we could, and cashing in all over the place so they could get paid.
Despite their inexperience, Quaife and Grenville managed to get the Kinks' demo one fine day to Shel Talmy, a young American producer who had a production deal with a small label known as Pi Records.
The first time I ever heard the Kinks was when I was actually in Denmark Street at a publisher, and Robert Quaife, who was one of their new managers, walked in, and then he said, "Anybody here would want to listen to a demo?" I said, "Sure." Loved what I heard, and I said, "Let's pursue it and see what's happening."
He was great. He didn't know what he was doing either, but that was probably why it was so good.
We were all kind of around the same age. We were all a bunch of kids.
The Kinks' management deals were made legally binding in January of 1964, and within a few months' time, the band suddenly realized they had practically signed away everything.
It does seem pretty clear that they signed a bunch of bad contracts and that they were making a lot of money for people other than the Kinks.
Even in those days, I thought, you bastards, you really don't care about us, do you?
You know, and we had agents and we had, you know, other people to pay, and it was like 60%, we're left with 40%, and we've got to pay all the expenses out of that, and there's 4 of us.
Despite these obstacles, the Kinks released 3 hit singles and 2 albums. When it came time for them to invade America, many wondered if the sibling rivalry and band management would be too much for them to bear.
Ray had suffered a breakdown because he couldn't really cope with the workload that was being put on him by the record company and the management.
Ahead of them lay their all-important trip to America, but the land of opportunity would not make the Kinks. In fact, it would almost break them.
I'm not really into the illusion. I'd rather have the real deal.
Is Alexis Arquette really having a sex change operation? People don't believe me.
Not worried about getting implants. I'm not worried about the final snip surgery.
I just hope it all ends well.
It's Here's Johnny, the biggest, the best Carson DVD offer ever, just in time for the holidays. 12 DVDs packed with over 18 hours of the most entertaining and hilarious moments from 30 years of The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson. Your collection begins with the original Ultimate Collection that started it all.
But I would give about a year's pay to peek under there.
Next, the very best of the Timeless Moments collection. These 6 DVDs feature classic Carson characters, favorite guest stars and comedians, the famous Lost episode, and everyone's favorite animal hijinks. And you'll get the popular 2-disc Stand-Up Comedians, featuring legends like Jerry Seinfeld, Rodney Dangerfield, George Carlin, and many more. Next, Carson Country, featuring all-time favorite country performers, including a special early appearance by Johnny Cash.
The Ring of Fire.
You get all 12 discs, over 18 hours of laughs, memories, and priceless entertainment for just 2 easy payments of $49.99. Also, as part of this very special holiday gift-giving offer, we'll also include a brand new bonus DVD DVD, Johnny Carson Celebrates Christmas. Absolutely free. Fresh from the vault, this DVD features 3 classic holiday shows with Robin Williams, Tony Bennett, Bob Hope, and more, along with hilarious holiday skits and Yuletide classics performed by the Tonight Show Band.
Everything but the Christmas tree.
Separately, these collections have sold for over $165. But during this limited time holiday offer, you get all 13 discs, including the free bonus DVD, Johnny Carson Celebrates Christmas. Over 20 hours of entertainment for just 2 easy payments of $49.99. Call today and enjoy free shipping. That's right, free shipping on the biggest Carson holiday DVD offer ever. This collectible set makes the perfect holiday gift. Call 1-800-974-1056 or go online to johnnycarson.com.
Own a timeshare?
5. That's 800-974-4195. Call 800-974-4195 now.
6 months after You Really Got Me hit #1 on the charts, the Kinks would record 2 albums, score 3 hit singles, and play in 7 countries around the world. During this whirlwind period, the Kinks stopped by to tape a segment on the American TV shows Hullabaloo and Shindig.
If you look at the Kinks on Shindig, they're wearing these Edwardian suits, but at the same time, they're singing this incredibly scruffy music.
Their initial appearance was a success. The Kinks wouldn't make it back to America until June 1965, when they were booked to headline a U.S. tour. The Kinks, however, were not accustomed to the workings of the American music industry.
America, for me, was a very strange place.
When we first went to America, it was a catalogue of disasters anyway, because the management sort of pulled it together and threw us out there and amongst it all, and it's a bad time to go, really.
In the middle of the tour, their manager, Larry Page, deserted them.
He left us high and dry and came home with Sonny and Cher to promote their record.
We didn't know what to do. We just stood there with our luggage and it just left.
They were doing that American tour with no management, which was a very odd thing.
The Kinks were falling apart. They were running wild in a foreign land, and they had no management to guide them.
I can't imagine that what they were doing anything that anybody else wasn't doing at that time, but it was just, it just happened to be their bad luck.
I mean, every group in England understood this. You have to get the American market or you'll starve.
Everything came crashing down, and the Kinks were suddenly banned from the American market. While there's never been a definitive answer as to why this happened, there were several theories.
Maybe it was to do with the management. Maybe they didn't, pay the people who needed to be paid.
The basic story is one of the Kinks got into a fist fight with some union guy. There was no management around to sort it out, and it ended up in some kind of ban during the prime of their life.
We did something that we shouldn't have done. A scuffle broke out because someone said the wrong thing and we couldn't be there.
The Kinks would not play in America for another 4 years. The youth revolution would continue without them.
They're banned from 64 to 68, which is the actual apex of the pop era in the biggest marketplace in the world.
That was prime time, as all the other bands got bigger and bigger. Here in America, they didn't.
The Kinks had no way of getting there, and sure enough, after that first British invasion rush, the Kinks kind of slide off the map for America.
In one way, it's a setback, and in another way, it was the best thing that could have happened to us.
Ray Davies soon lost interest in the magic of swinging London. Instead, his music and songwriting started to take on a whole new perspective.
They went on to do something completely different as their career progressed.
Ray took his songwriting in a different direction after that. He's more of an anthropologist and looking at life in England.
With songs like Well-Respected Man, Dedicated Follower of Fashion, these are like more short story-like versions of songs that the Beatles would put out.
He conveyed just a feeling of the times and a feeling of a certain place. London at that time. Waterloo Sunset was one of the most beautiful songs ever.
Dirty old river, must you keep rolling, flowing into the night.
The Kinks raised the artistic ambition level on tiny little 3-minute pop songs. They can be character studies, they can be part of a concept album, they can be like short stories.
But I don't
till the sunset, I am in paradise.
This new style of music moves the band into new creative territory, but it does not get them back on the rock and roll scene.
From my point of view, I just wanted to go out there and do gigs, you know. Need to do that to earn the money for the band. You know.
The band raised the bar artistically when they released the album, The Village Green Preservation Society.
The Village Green Preservation Society is the LP that the Kinks recorded mostly throughout 1968.
When we did it, I thought it was wonderful, and it was exploratory, and I think it was Ray's attempt at trying to write solo work.
It's an extremely smart record, well beyond the capability of most young men in their 20s. Most people don't have that kind of perspective on life or society. They don't look around them and go, things are changing really quickly. Are we losing anything with all that we're gaining?
A collection of songs, much against the current of the times, about village greens, cricket, cups of tea, but also about memory and regret and growing old and nostalgia. You know, a concept album in the real sense, in that it's held together by mood and by ideas.
It was just a total joy to have made that album. It really was.
At the time, Village Green seemed completely out of date, anachronistic. It's 1968. It's the year of revolution, of Vietnam, of loud rock and roll, of riots in Grosvenor Square and in Paris. And it was released in November of that year, on the same day that the Beatles released the White Album and Jimi Hendrix released Electric Ladyland.
The album ended up being a huge commercial failure.
People don't care that much about what we've lost. You tend to care about the future and the present in rock and roll, to care about the past, the way that Ray Davies seemed to. It's not a formula for massive, massive stardom.
Whereas the Beatles sold 2 million copies of the White Album in its first week of release worldwide, the Kinks sold in total worldwide 25,000 copies of the Village Green Preservation Society. It doesn't chart anywhere in the world. It's a commercial disaster.
Adding to their troubles, the Kinks family would soon be fractured by the departure of one of its original members.
Well, I left the group because one of the biggest problems I had in those days was I was suffering from enormous claustrophobia. Right? And I was finding myself locked up in planes, in studios, in dressing rooms and everything.
Pete Quaife's departure in 1969 came around the same time that the ban in America had been lifted. In order to return to the USA, the Kinks needed to find a new bassist.
When John Dalton joined us, that was a good time.
With John Dalton rounding out the foursome, the Kinks were ready to shed their nostalgic English perspective and try to get back in the game. The player they chose to carry their banner, a transvestite named Lola.
In a club down in Old Soho, where you drink champagne and it tastes just like cherry cola.
Robert, our manager, was in a nightclub. I don't know verbatim what happened.
She walked up to me and she asked me to dance.
Robert found himself dancing at 5 o'clock in the morning with this beautiful woman that had the beginnings of, you know. Ray is great at pulling those elements out and embellishing them.
Well, I'm not the world's most passionate guy, but when I looked in her eyes, then I almost fell for
After 4 years of releasing cynical songs about British society, the Kinks managed to get back on the charts with their quirky hit song about an unusual subject. At this point, the Kinks were ready for a second American invasion, but they never imagined how a partnership with a Yankee music mogul would change their lives.
By the late 1970s, the Kinks are signed to Clive Davies' label Arista, and they are making big American hit records, finally, for the first time since the early 1960s.
When you are wrongfully injured through no fault of your own, life can be tough. Oasis Legal Finance is the #1 choice to provide clients the money they need for bills and living expenses long before their case may settle. Call Oasis now. If you're approved, you could have a check in as little as 24 hours. And remember, there's no obligation to repay if you lose your case. Please make sure to have your attorney's information and call Oasis now.
Attention, the contrast dye gadolinium often injected during an MRI has been linked to NSF and NFD, potentially fatal diseases.
This is serious. If you've experienced skin and eye problems, skin swelling, skin hardening and tightening, discoloration of skin, itching and burning, spots on your eyes, or muscle or joint weakness after your MRI, call the law firm of Robert Goldwater right now.
I'm attorney Bob Goldwater. This is serious. If this has happened to you or a loved one, call me right now. You may be entitled to a large cash award.
Call the law firm of Robert Goldwater now to find out if you qualify for a large cash award. There is a deadline, so don't wait. Call now.
If you've had any of these warning signs after your MRI, call the law firm of Robert Goldwater right now.
Call 800-817-1441. That's 800-817-1441.
We all know the importance of exercise, but recognize the harm it may cause joints. So ThermoSpas designed the Aquasizer, the deepest hot tub in the world with a powerful current that allows you to jog, walk, row, and follow a series of exercises to tone virtually every muscle in your body, all within a low-impact water environment where you control the water pressure and temperature. The Aquasizer is also an elegant 7-person hot tub, designed to be installed either indoors or out. Now, can you think of a better way to end your workout than with a full body massage? I can. To learn more about ThermoSpa's complete line of hot tubs, exercise spas, and swim spas, call for your free DVD and catalog. Call today, and we'll include a gift coupon for free delivery and installation. ThermoSpas offers many features found on no other hot tub. Why? Because it's not just a hot tub. It's a ThermoSpas.
I was sitting in my office answering the last few emails of the day. I could hear this loud, angry male voice.
The man came up the stairs, and when I asked him if I could help him, he got out a gun and asked to see my manager.
He shot me, but I didn't hear the bullets or anything or feel it because I was just kind of in this stunned disbelief.
I'm on the floor, and he's like making up his mind whether to shoot me or where to shoot me. But I just thought, this is it. I'm dead.
By 1970, the Kinks were able to reach a whole new audience with the success of their hit song Lola. The song went top 5 in the UK and top 10 in America.
When I was in college, Lola came out, and it was like, the Kinks? They're still around? And, I didn't even know they still existed.
With the ban in America lifted, the Kinks were ready to hit the American road again.
The story of the Kinks in the 1970s is the story of Ray's attempt to claw back the success in America that he felt had been deprived him in the 1960s.
They seem to keep chasing the credit they deserve down increasingly ambitious artistic paths until they're not outdoing anyone. They're not outdoing themselves.
Lola was a huge hit single, but writing hit singles were becoming few and far between for Ray.
What you find as a result of that is that the Kinks LPs throughout the 1970s are a very uneven listening experience. It's almost like Ray doesn't want to write hit singles.
Lola's success was followed by a string of 6 poorly received albums. Muswell Hillbillies, Everybody's in Showbiz, Preservation Act 1, Preservation Act 2, Soap Opera, and Schoolboys in Disgrace.
So for me, there's only one thing that I want to be assured of. Are you interested in getting back to writing songs that we can get played on the radio? Because without that, you really can't sell albums.
Clive Davis, one of the recording industry's most influential executives, begins the Americanization of the Kinks.
Clive Davis, I thought, was one of the best things to happen to the Kinks. And that was a very good period, I think. And it helped Ray sort of become a bit less sort of up his own arse.
When we got together, we had much greater success in the United States than they were able to enjoy in the UK.
Arista Records got a hold of it and said, you should really be a big arena act.
I was a bit scared at first because I thought, we don't play places like this. But I actually started to really get into it, and it gave me a lot of confidence, a lot of self-belief.
The first really big hit of our association was I Wish I Could Fly Like Superman. And when that crossed over to top 40, and they were being discovered in person by a whole new generation, one of the big thrills of my life was seeing them headline at Madison Square Garden in 1979.
It's not until the 80s when they start actually rebuilding their reputation as a rock band that plays the hits. And they put out an album, not sarcastically titled, Give the People What They Want and Hope They Get What They Deserve, that they're gonna have hits.
18,000 fans to see the Kinks and screaming for them as the show began. And of course, by the time the show was over, that magic came through, and it was one of the great, great memorable shows that I remember.
In 1990, the Kinks were made part of American music royalty when they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
As soon as they were eligible, they were inducted. It was great. Pete Townsend inducting them. Perfect.
I didn't like that at first, but then I thought, well, hey, we should be in it. There's all these other people in it, and why not? And I thought, okay, we should be in it. Thank you.
Throughout this period, however, Ray and Dave's love-hate relationship continued to make the band a dysfunctional family.
They were always like that. They were always like it. The thing is that both Ray and Dave are extremely hot-tempered, and they can lose it, just like that, bang.
All Kinks music is all grown out of family and love and emotions and all the experiences.
They've had fights on stage. They've, he said things that he probably thought were jokes on stage, but were, really incredibly cruel.
It is love-hate to some extent. I think it is human nature to be a little resentful of somebody you depend on. I think everybody has a thing where they want to be an island. They want to be, completely in control of their own destiny. Nobody wants to compromise at all.
Of course I love Ray. Absolutely, unequivocally. And that's probably been a problem.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't talk enough, really, as a band. Everyone had individual sort of ideas of what should happen, what shouldn't happen.
Ray Davies, there's a part of him that wants people around him in a situation of relative equality. He wants people to stand up to him and tell him things, but on the other hand, he doesn't want that at all.
I'd just like to say that I think that I thought Ray could have been a little bit more generous with my creative input and help over the years.
And he has his problems with me sometimes, but that's inevitable. I'm not an easy person to work with.
In 1995, the Kinks threw in the towel and disbanded.
I think it's a good idea that they stopped, because obviously, apart from the brothers hating each other, it was time to stop. They should have. It's a good thing the Beatles stopped.
Though the Davis brothers had gone their separate ways, life-threatening events loomed on the horizon and would eventually bring them together once again.
I was devastated.
Two hard-working gals turned massive Hollywood stars. Outspoken, unpretentious, imperfect.
She said, that's not how my body looks. I don't want my public thinking that they need to attain something that I don't even look like.
And both proving that image isn't everything.
She said, okay, if I'm gonna have to be in my underwear for the next 6 hours, I want everybody else on the set to strip down to their underwear. And they did it.
Biography, Kate Winslet, followed by Julia Roberts. Wednesday, starting at 9, only on Bio.
This commercial changed my life. It all started when I used this free research service.
A computer and a desire to succeed is all you need.
With all the money I made, I bought a new home and a new car. I love the freedom my home business offers.
Not working from home? Then you're missing out on your share of a billion-dollar industry. Visit this website now.
I make over $9,000 a month working part-time.
I make over $5,000 a month. Start making more from your home today.
Log on to 30smallbiz.com now.
Don't pay another mortgage payment or maintenance fee on your timeshare. Turn it into cash. Call Timeshares Only.
We got rid of those maintenance fees.
Thanks, Timeshares Only, for making it so easy.
At Timeshares Only, you'll find properties from the biggest names in the industry. If you want to buy, sell, or rent, call now.
No more mortgage payments, no more maintenance fees.
Thanks, Timeshares Only.
Call Timeshares Only and get your free information kit with our insider secrets to buying, selling, and renting timeshares, plus receive a free $100 gift card. Our thousands of satisfied customers have made us the largest resale marketplace in the world. Call Timeshares Only now.
Your free information kit with our 10 secrets on selling your timeshare is waiting. The over $5 billion sold in the past 6 months proves now could be the best time to sell. Call Timeshares Only today. Thank us tomorrow.
Call Timeshares Only now and get your free information kit. Turn your timeshare into cash and never pay another mortgage payment, maintenance fee, or tax bill again. Don't wait. Call now.
Call 800-983-0896. That's 800-983-0896. Call 800-983-0896 now.
Get as much as 20% cash back this holiday season with PayPal. You heard right. With PayPal, you can get up to 20% of your hard-earned cash back from your favorite places to shop online. And enjoy free shipping from retailers like these. To unwrap some amazing deals this season, simply go to paypal.com/savings. So start shopping and wrap up some of the sweetest savings this holiday season, courtesy of PayPal.
After the disintegration of the Kinks in 1995, Ray and Dave Davies pursued solo careers as singer-songwriters.
I think he's a very smart guy and he should be doing more. Really, he should have gone solo years ago.
The brothers would lead separate lives until one day, Ray made a bad decision on the streets of New Orleans.
There was one incident involving a 59-year-old man identified as Ray Davies, who was walking in a 1400 block of Burgundy Street, Faubourg-Marigny Triangle, with a female.
This guy came up to him and knocked him over, knocked his girlfriend over, and took their money and ran off. And, you know, Ray Davies is, since 1964, he's been on this mission not to let anybody else run off with his money.
Mr. Davies apparently ran behind the man when one of them turned and shot him in the right thigh.
When Ray was shot, I called him up in the hospital. I was on tour myself at the time, and I felt so emotional for him.
It was very serious. It could have killed him. You know, they didn't realize that his leg was fractured in the hospital. They got him up to go to the bathroom, and the leg shattered as he was trying to walk to the bathroom.
I felt so wanted him to be okay, you know, like sort of. We all have motherly things, even men, you know, that motherly thing of protection, I thought. And, but I was going through my own bad shit as well.
Only a few months after Ray's shooting incident, fate came calling for his brother.
And they were coming down in the elevator, as far as I can understand it, and all of a sudden, Dave just went white and collapsed on the floor.
And I'm sure a lot of people thought that was the end of Dave. When I came out of hospital, I stayed with my sister Dolly for a few months, and then I stayed with Ray for a while. It was good for a while. He's quite a good cook, not a bad cook.
These near brushes with death brought the brothers closer together.
I'm sure Ray would not admit that it was a life-changing experience to be shot in the leg in New Orleans.
I think destiny may have played some kind of bizarre role here in them both getting ill at the same moment and maybe bringing them together.
My perceptions, my life changed drastically.
Dave's work began to reflect a new spirituality.
I've just finished a film and it's got a lot of music in it, and I'm very excited about the music in it. It's autobiographical. My spiritual path like since childhood. I'm very happy with what I'm doing now. Just let things go eventually.
It also seems to have made Ray more content with his legacy, that he is happy to go out and play older Kinks songs and to take the credit for it and accept the credit and enjoy it.
I miss you too, darling.
His conspicuous work rate seems to have increased since that shooting. You know, he had been working on a solo album for 10 years that there was no firm release date for it, kept being put back and put back and put back. And then, you know, within 18 months of the shooting, that solo LP appears, and then 18 months later, another solo LP appears.
In 2006, Ray releases the solo album Other People's Lives, and in 2007, he releases another solo album, Working Man's Cafe.
The songs started to emerge. There were some really interesting songs coming out at that time.
His latest album, Working Man's Cafe, it's nostalgia for working class culture that has been destroyed. You know, there's this real nostalgia for, you know, the family that he grew up in and the class that he grew up in, which has been none of which exists anymore.
There's a strain that runs through all of Ray Davies' writing after a certain point, where he's basically saying, I don't belong in this world. I was not made for these times. I do not feel comfortable.
You know, I was talking to someone yesterday and they say, if you're over 21, you don't exist, which is kind of sad, really, because it just indicates the way that the culture's going here. But I'm kind of optimistic.
Dave, on the other hand, had published an autobiographical book titled Kink and released a solo album, Fractured Minds.
I got an idea for the first song for Fractured Minds, which was the title of the album, when I was lying on my back. I originally sold it on the website, my website. That's what I love about the internet. You can write a song in the hospital bed and put it out 3 months later or a month later.
New technology like the internet would help both Ray and Dave keep in touch with their fans.
I think the Kinks audience also either expressed through downloads or through blogging or through the internet. And, you know, Ray has been very careful to have a site that people can come to and talk to one another. You know, they seem to be a group that find a repeating young audience.
One question that remained on the blogosphere, would the band ever get over their lifelong differences and reunite?
A couple of years go by and I started reading rumours and people that Ray wants to get the Kinks back together.
Hi, I'm Ronnie Deutsch, and I'm here to tell you, yes, you can do something about your IRS tax problem, and yes, you can get help to fight the IRS.
Ronnie saved me $150,000.
Ronnie saved us over $500,000.
Saved me $250,000.
And yes, you can call me right now.
If you owe the IRS, call Ronnie right now for your free and confidential tax analysis. Call 800-516-5675. Call 800-516-5675.
Ever wish you had sonic hearing? Well, now you can with the amazing Silver Sonic XL from Bell & Howell. Now you can easily hear sounds that other people can't, and even hear conversations from clear across the room.
John is a really nice guy.
Yeah, he is. I hope he's enjoying his surprise party.
The sleek, ergonomically designed Silver Sonic XL is lightweight and small, just like a cell phone ear adapter. Its flexible ear mount easily adjusts to fit all ear shapes and sizes, and the molded ear tip lets it fit you comfortably. And because it resembles a cell phone ear adapter, no one will ever know that you have sonic hearing. Now you can sit in the balcony and hear the orchestra like you're sitting in the front row. Keep track of your kids while they play in the park, and even hear the doorbell when you're working in the backyard. You'll be amazed at how clear and vibrant every sound is. The Bell & Howell Silver Sonic XL picks up and amplifies sounds from up to 30 yards away. You can watch TV without turning up the volume, and even watch in bed without disturbing others. Your Bell & Howell Silver Sonic XL amplifies sounds up to 50 decibels. There's a high and low switch to vary the sound intensity, and a volume control so you can set just the level you want. With the Silver Sonic XL, you might even hear things that may pleasantly surprise you.
Her body is amazing. I was
I could look like that.
Through this exclusive TV-only offer, the Bell & Howell Silversonic XL is yours for only $19.95. And just listen to this. When you call, be sure to ask about our deluxe model upgrade that's fully rechargeable and comes with its own charger, so you'll never have to buy another battery again. Get Silversonic XL now and start hearing things you've never heard before. Call now.
To order your Silversonic XL, have your credit card ready and call toll-free 1-800-368-6200 or send $19.95 plus shipping and handling too. Silversonic XL, P.O. Box 13184, Bridgeport, Connecticut. But for quicker service, call 1-800-368-6200.
Next time on Shatner's Raw Nerve.
My guest will be Kelsey Grammer.
My dad was a really interesting guy. Born in New Jersey.
And then he moved to the Virgin Islands.
Owned a bar and grill. Was a musician.
And were things good or bad there?
Bad. Things were bad.
An all-new Shatner's Raw Nerve. Tuesday at 10 on Bio.
By 2007, the Kinks had been separated for more than 12 years. During this time, Ray Davies worked on his solo career, while his brother Dave worked on a book and film. But the Kinks' music and legacy was still alive. Even the Oscar-nominated film Juno featured the Kinks' well-respected man on the film's soundtrack.
People have real affection for the Kinks and continue to feel like those records exist for them in a very present way. And they speak to generations of younger people and older people and continue to do so.
The Kinks music definitely has longevity because it doesn't sound dated.
The band continues to influence legions of fans and a younger generation of rock and roll artists.
I think the Kinks, if you're interested in rock and roll, really passionately interested in it, remain relevant, particularly to young bands today and therefore to young listeners today.
I think they're getting credit. The credit has been increasing in recent years, and people look back and they see it. I think young musicians look back and say, "This is really great." You say it wasn't worldwide smash hit popular, and no, it wasn't really. But I think you can see now how great it was. So I think they're building and building and building.
Met her in a club down in Old Soho, where you drink champagne and it tastes just like cherry cola.
In the United States, I think the Kinks are probably one of the biggest cult bands. You know, but there are so many good songs there that somebody's going to be reviving a Kinks song for decades to come.
Kinks are their heritage, the body of work, their shows. The lyric content of those songs are so special.
Having already become members of the American Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1990, the Kinks were also inducted into the UK Music Hall of Fame in 2005. In 2008, Ray Davies continued to expand his musical repertoire with the debut of his theatrical musical, Come Dancing. Everyone wondered if this musical would be the last they would hear of Ray Davies and the Kinks.
I kind of come to grips with the feeling of our career being up and down, up and down.
Dirty old river, must you keep rolling, flowing into the night.
That's how real people live, you know, they're not always happy. Just life really bites you in the butt when you least expect it.
But I don't need no friends, as long as I gaze on Waterloo sunset, I am in paradise.
And I'm perfectly happy now to listen to some of those records and think, yeah, that definitely wasn't bad.
In September of 2008, Ray Davies announced to the world that he hoped to reunite the Kinks. But were Dave, Mick, and Pete on board?
You see, with Ray, it always has to be his idea. That's a really, really big problem. And maybe that's the way it can only function in that way.
The world would come to see the 4 original Kinks play together.
Would I reunite with the Kinks? Absolutely, definitely not. No way, no way.
I hope they do reunite, and you know, and I hope they go back and recognize how great those early records were. You know, but it's unlikely.
I've had to deal with emotionally with what I've donated to the Kinks, emotionally and spiritually. I've done that. Now I have to use what time I have to work on my own stuff. But of course I like to work with Ray again.
I believe that if the Kinks get back together, that there are a tremendous number of people who would not love to see them, and that he could have a triumphant tour. And I'd be right there in the front row cheering them on.
None of them really appreciate what they did, because most of that generation just don't do that. They don't. For whatever reason, maybe the memories are just not that pleasant about the early records, or being ripped off, or whatever. You know, the dynamics at the time just makes it difficult for them to go back and enjoy them, which is a shame.
Whether or not the 4 original members of the Kinks, Dave Davies, Peter Quaife, Mick Avory, and Ray Davies, ever reunite again, one thing's for sure: their music will live on.
Well, I don't care if you hate each other, love each other, stay together if you can. Go do your side projects, do your solo records, but always come back to a band that actually works, right? That actually makes great music is a magical thing and should never, ever break up. Blood will be spilled, you know, but that's okay. You know, it's worth it.
The following is a paid advertisement for Time Life's music collection.